حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. Allah has created us with the nature of seeking pleasure, and He has made this nature of seeking pleasure and lazzat infinite in order that we strive for it, in order that we want it and seek it and search for it. And then there are two types of pleasure, one that is accessible to us and one that is potentially within us. Now the one that is accessible to us, the pleasure is inferior. The one that is potentially within us, the pleasure is superior. But in order to reach that superior pleasure, then there has to be a struggle, there has to be work done in order to get to it, in order to feel that, in order to experience that. And this is where you see that the struggle for reaching the greater states of pleasure comes from. Now, in order to reach those greater pleasure, then the restrictions that are here in the pleasures here and the prohibitions that are in the pleasures here must be followed, and we must sacrifice the inferior pleasures, meaning that we must get past the inferior pleasures in order to feel the superior pleasures. That is what we see in the life of Anbiya, Aimma, and Ahlul Bayt and the Awliya. That it wasn't that they were not enjoying the things of life. They were enjoying it, but they wanted the greater things that Allah has in store for them. And obviously, the things, the pleasures that Allah has in store are basically in Akhirat, in Jannat, but the pleasure of that can be felt here in the spiritual uplifting and the greater heights that Allah wanted us to reach. And people who have reached those states feel the pleasure of Jannat in this dunya. And that's why you see that they are in love with ibadat. They love ibadat. I mean, it is an enjoyment for them. Now, when we look at ourselves, when we see that, we want to reach there. We want to get there. But we should be realistic about ourselves in understanding where we are and what we need to do to get there. Love of Allah is a height that has to be reached, not the beginning emotion you start the journey with. The whole idea of Hubbullah, it is a height that must be reached. Not, for example, at our stage that we say, I'm in love with Allah. That is just words. It's not more than that. It has to be reached there. The first step, there are many steps, but the first step that we spoke about to get there, to reach that state of higher pleasure, is taslim, is submission to Allah. That's the first step where we are at. Just submit yourself to Allah. Make your nafs listen to what Allah is saying. Make yourself listen to what Allah is saying. Right? Because it is for anyone to think that they are more than that, or they love Allah without submission, is ridiculous. It is absurd. We are here wanting to submit to Allah. Allah, let me just submit to you. That's what we have to do. The first thing that we have to do. And how do you submit? Well, the way of submission is recognizing the restrictions Allah has put on us, physical restrictions, weakness, or the circumstances that we find ourselves in. We see that Allah is controlling things around us. What happens to us, our maut, our death, right? What happens today, what happens tonight, the things that we will face, the things that we interact with, accidents that happen, incidents that happen in life. You see that Allah is controlling this. And once a person recognizes that, then he will recognize that he is in Allah's hands. That he is in Allah's hands, and that is what leads us to submission. And that is the first step towards becoming better. This is a recap of the 10 days that we had, the speeches, right? And this is where we need to start. Recognizing truly how Allah is controlling the environment and circumstances around us, and we are like a rat in a lab test, right? You go here, he leaves 2 holes open. Now you choose which hole you want to go in, right? And now, for example, you smell, a rat, a mouse, smells cheese in one side, so he looks for the cheese, and then the other side, there's better cheese. So now he needs to choose, right? This is where choice comes in. Choice is not unrestricted. It's not unrestricted, my friends. That's the thing to recognize. The choices we have are restricted to the options that Allah gives us in front of us. As I said, I want to marry any woman. No. The ones that I marry are the ones, that are in front of me that I can find, or know about. I can't just reach out anywhere. So you see, the options are limited. Everything in life, you'll see that. Options that are there, we choose between that. These options that Allah determines for us, they come mainly to test us, for azmaish, for ibtila. Allah mentions that in the Quran, right? Alladhi khalaqal mawta wal hayat liyabluwakum, linabluwakum. We made maut and hayat so that we may test you, right? All of this is a test. All of these things that are happening, choices that Allah is giving, is a test for us, right? And we give those tests, and by giving those tests, that's our choice. When Allah gives us a chance or an opportunity, it's a test. It comes like that. Allah sees what are we going to do. Like, for example, we interact with a beggar, right? He comes there, asks. It's a test. Azan is called for prayer. Allahu Akbar, Hayya ala Salat. It's a test. What are you going to do? Are you going to come or not? Right? Everything like that. Hal min nasirin yansuruna. It's a test. It comes there. What's your choice? See, we have a choice. The choice is there. But the choice that we are making is in giving the answer to the test. Everything that's happening is a test, and we are making the choices in life. Now, Allah has given us guidance to make those choices better. Knowledge helps. We were having a discussion at the tea stall, right? Discussion at the tea stall about knowledge and this and that. I said, you know what? Instead of you all spending 3 hours here, why don't you go to Brother Masoom's stall there and get some books and read, right? Salawat. And this wasn't a paid advertisement, right? This wasn't a paid advertisement. It's real, right? Go there and read something, learn some things. It will help us make better decisions. It really will give us the guidelines, the things, what we read, the life of Ahlul Bayt, hadith from Ahlul Bayt will give us the guidelines to make those right decisions when we are being tested. That's why Allah sent all these prophets and the imams, so that when these testing happens, that at least we can see their life, the decisions they made, the guidelines they gave, and make the right decision in our testing. But if we make the wrong decision, Allah is saying, don't worry. Don't worry. Right? It's fine. Because Allah is the one giving these tests in order to make us reach a higher state. If we fail in a test, Allah now will give a test, another test, in order to eliminate the weakness that you had. And He will keep on giving it until that weakness is eliminated. Right? And this is what we don't understand about life. If we view that about life, then the difficulties that happen, sufferings that happens, it is a test that Allah is giving to improve our situation and make us better. This is how it happens. So if we keep that in mind, then we will never be depressed by any difficulty we are going through in life. Right? We're not depressed, because the examiner is someone who loves us. He's not there to hurt us. When we understand He's there to love us, then everything that is happening, that is not in our hands, of course, every test that we are going through is a test in order that He can improve us. Now, what I want to mention today is this, because a lot of times people are confused about the free will and choice. How does that happen? This testing that goes on. So this is something I want to mention, and if we can truly understand the system of how this works, you will appreciate. You'll truly appreciate, and it will make your life easier. My friends, any test, in order for it to be a test, in general, because life is a test, Allah is giving these tests all along. In order for a test to be a test, truly a test, where we have a choice in the matter, there must be two conditions. There must be two conditions. One is an internal condition, one is an external condition. Internal condition is within us, external condition is outside of us. There must be two conditions here, my friends, in order for testing to be real. Otherwise, it's not a test. Otherwise, it's, meant for us to fail, or it's prejudice. You want to have a test that is without any sort of bias. These two conditions must be there. So the internal condition, my friends, the internal condition is that what the options we're having in front of us, within us, there must be a real choice. If there is no real choice, then what are we choosing? Let me explain that, right? What does that mean? My friends, let's say that on one hand, you're offered chai. You love chai. Let's say you love chai. You're offered chai. You hate coffee. You hate coffee and you have chai. Now, if I give you the choice between chai and coffee, what are you going to choose? Okay. If I give that choice a million times, what are you going to choose? Then it's not a choice, because it's what you like. You see, every time where you prefer something to something else, you will always choose what you prefer. So if whatever is offered to you, if something that's offered to you that you prefer, it's not a choice, it's a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to choose this. I like this, right? I like this. I don't like that. So if two things are put before you, one that you prefer, the other you don't, you will always choose what you prefer, what you like, what you're inclined towards. You see, then it's not a choice anymore. We are just taking what we like. You see, and now, let's say, that you have two things in front of you that are the same. For example, you go to the tea stall and there are 2 cups of tea. Right? There are 2, 3, 4, it's 100 cups of tea. And you choose one. On what basis did you choose that? They're all tea, and it's all the same, it's all coming from the same pot. On what basis did you choose that? It was a random pick. You see, it was a random pick. So if there's 2 things that are the same for you, that won't be a choice also. To give a choice of 2 things and say that here, this is water and this is water. Both are the same. Drink it. Which one do you want? This choice is a retarded choice. Come on, it's a retarded choice. I mean, what is this? You know, I'll just pick one. It doesn't matter what I pick, right? There's not a choice anymore. And friends, understand this. Now, if you understood, now the choice that must be there must be relevant, must be real. That I'm choosing between 2 things. If I prefer one, if one is better than the other, I will always prefer that. For example, if Allah, He gave you the choice that, listen, here on this, on this side you have, for example, an Xbox, and on this side you have homework, Try it with your children, right? Try it with your children. Okay, for like another choice. Okay, on this plate you have pizza, on this plate you have vegetables. Give it to the children and make a choice. Choose one. They will always choose, pizza. Very good. Because you like it. You see, my friends, if 2 things are there, one you prefer more than the other, it's not a choice anymore. There is no choice. There is no free will here. We are doing what we instinctively want to do. If the 2 things are the same, then it's not a relevant choice, because now these 2 things are the same, and because they're the same, it's not a relevant choice anymore. It's a random pick. I just pick one randomly. It doesn't matter whether this or that. It doesn't matter to me. It's not relevant. Right? So now, when Allah has to give choice to us, we asked for choice. Now Allah, when He gave us choice, now here's the issue. If one is better than the other, we will always choose the better. If both of them are the same, then it's not a relevant choice. So how does Allah give a choice? And friends, on one hand, Allah is saying Jannat, on the other hand, Dunya. Right? If Jannat and Dunya are put in front of you, what are you going to choose? Jannat. All the time. If I give you 1,000,000 times the same thing, all the time, it will be there. You see, if Jannat and Dunya were the same, it would be a random pick. But Jannat, and we know what Dunya is because we lived in it. We have white hair to prove it, a lot of us, We lived here, we experienced here, we know what life is here. So you know what? I will choose Jannat all the time. I'll tell you, if Jannat was there in front of me, I would have chosen it all the time if this was the case. But you know what? Now Allah, there is a technical dilemma. How does this choice between Akhirat and Dunya become real? How does it become real? Based on this, Allah made a system where the choice that we have can be real. It can be a real choice. The choice is between Jannat, life of Akhirat, life of Dunya. Allah has already said life there is better. We read it, we know it. But now Allah, how does this choice, if that is the case, I will always choose Jannat. But you know how He made it real? You see, my friends, He made one better than the other. He made Jannat far better than Dunya. But He kept Jannat concealed and hidden. He made Dunya apparent and close. Understand this. This is where the choice becomes real. Dunya, I know, is not that good. I lived it. Life here, I lived it. I know it's a pain. But because it's in front of me, it's right here. This is Dunya, And that Jannat, I hear it's very good, but I've never seen it. It's just a promise. It's just something that's in my mind. Allah kept Jannat hidden for this reason, that you may have a choice in this dunya. If Jannat wasn't hidden, it was made apparent to us, then there wouldn't be a choice anymore. There wouldn't be a choice anymore. Where do we get our free will from? The free will that we all speak about, we are free will. What are you choosing between? What are you choosing between? If you're choosing what you like, that's not a choice. If you choose what you prefer, that's not a choice. If you're choosing between two same things, that's not a choice. My friends, the only place where free will can be applied and used is in between the choice of dunya and akhirat. Other than that, you cannot apply your free will anywhere in this dunya. Any place, because you choose what you like. That's not a choice. You're doing what you like, other than what you don't like. Right, my friends, understand this. Now, based on this choice that we make in akhirat, then a person has the ability to make the difficult choices in this dunya. I like it, but I don't want it because I want Jannats. I want that. I hate it, but I'm doing it because I want that. You see, a human being become, what makes you a human being? I don't want to go into tangents, right? But I need to go into this one so he can explain this to you. What makes you different than animals? If you are doing what you like, then that's what animals do. They do what they like. They run away from what they are afraid of. They do that. No animal makes himself goes into harm's way. He sees harm, he runs away from it. He sees something he likes, he goes for it. If that's what we are, then what's the difference between us and animals? My friends, the definition of a human, when do you become insan? When do you become a human being? When you start choosing what you don't like because it's better, and what you hate, you start doing that because it's better for you. You're going against what you like and what you hate. This is what makes you human. The whole concept of insan, when do you become insan? When I start doing those things that I don't like because it's better for me. When I start to run away from those things that I like because they're bad for me. This is when human becomes human, insan becomes insan. So this is the choice that Allah gave, that is internal. It must be real. Otherwise, other than dunya and akhirat, there is no other choice that you are making. You are just doing what you want and what you like. That's what you're doing. You see, my friends, this is where that internal condition, Allah has made it real. That our choice that we have, the free will that we have to apply that free will must be real. It must be a choice. That's it. La ilaha illallah. If there's good and bad, if you know this is good, this is bad, what are you going to choose? Good. Very good. If that choice is given to you a million times, what are you going to choose? Good. All right. If there's bad and worse, if I do this, I'll lose my hand. If I do this, I'll get killed. What are you going to do? Bad. Very good. So my friends, understand this. Whether in the election there's good and bad or bad and worse, it's not a choice. It's not a choice. It's a no-brainer. It's retarded. Really, that's the case. And this is the reason why when we look at dunya and our life over here, this is how it becomes. And when we understand the real choice that is applying our free will is between dunya and akhirat. That's a real choice that we are making. That's a choice where we have to choose that decision. And when we start choosing that, then we start improving ourselves, making the right decision. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. La ilaha illallah. So these tests that come, this choice that we have is really made every moment of our life, this dunya and akhirat. It is every moment we are making this choice. Whether it is answering the call of prayer or listening to Allah when He says, don't do this. Every moment of our life, we are making those decisions. That's the choice we are making, my friends. Understand, where do we have free will? This is the free will that we have. Now, when it happens, when this happens, so now, obviously, Allah, I'll just mention 1-2 things in relationship to this. I'm going to make it brief, so, we'll be able to conclude this. I want to get to the external condition also, right? So that we understand that. My friends, the internal condition still. Now what happens when the choice comes, now a test comes, now Allah, when you see that the test is easy for you, if you see that the test is easy, then you know what Allah does? He makes it harder. Yes. He puts a wrench in your plans to make it harder. That's something from Allah. He says, all right, you think it's easy for you to do this test? Now let me do this to you. Right? At first it was hard for me to pray on time. Now that I got used to praying on time, now Allah makes it harder for me. What does He do? He gets me married. Right? He gets me married. I have children. Now it all becomes harder. Right? This is how it works. It comes and it becomes a test. It just becomes harder. Let me give you one incident, one historical incident. I'll give an example and we'll move forward. When Musa went to the mountain, right, and the people waited for Musa, when the people waited for Musa and the people, right, after Musa didn't come, started worshipping a cow. They made a cow and worshipped it, right? Now, Samari made the cow. He made the cow with gold and all that, in order to attract the people. He made it. Now, here's the thing, right? And the cow started making noises, right? Real noises. So people were really into that. Musa, after the whole incident happened, Musa was talking to Allah and said, Allah, I understand that Samari made the cow. He made it of gold. But yeah, Allah, how did the cow make the noises? Those sounds. That was really confusing the people. Allah said, oh, that was me. I was making the sounds for the cow. And how come? Because I wanted to make the test harder on them. Raise the level of the test. That's what Allah does. Right? If it gets too easy for you, He will raise the heat. That's it. My friends, this is life. And for a mu'min, he must understand that. Because now, when a mu'min, he has submitted to Allah and he is doing good, now Allah is raising the heat so that the test becomes bigger and harder for him. We have hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says that normal people die once in a lifetime, but a mu'min dies 70 times a day. That means this difficulty. Mu'min is going through this difficulty every moment of his life. Because Allah is raising the heat on them. Raising the level of their testing. La ilaha illallah. My friends, when we look at the idea of freedom in the West, right, that they speak of, and really I wish I had time to go into this and explain this, but as a thought, so that you can think about it and you can yourself, because we live here, we know it more than the people who don't live here, because we live it every day. Understand, idea of freedom here, really, when you look at it, is not a freedom. It is we are actually being forced not to do good. It's a force. They say you have freedom, but freedom what? You are putting so much things in and around me that, you know what, I'm not left with a choice. I have to go with this. The only thing that makes a person not go towards debauchery and immorality is if he has a faith. But if he has no faith, then you know what? There's no free choice here, right? They are forcing you to think their way and do things their way. That's not freedom. You're just forcing people. Allah, He wants to maintain your freedom in order to give you the ability to choose. The ability to choose. Here's how it happens. In Islam, if you have a product to sell, it's makruh, not haram, makruh to advertise. It's makruh to advertise. Why is it makruh to advertise? Because it will sway the people away from the other products and won't give them the ability to choose freely. How are elections won? When more money is spent. Right? When more money is spent, unless, of course, the nominee makes a stupid statement that comes out, sneaks out into the public, then obviously, no matter how much money he spends, he's going to lose, right? But really, if you spend more money, that's the way it is. That's why you raise campaign funds. In order to do what? Raise more money so that you have more advertisement. When more people hear you, then there's name recognition, and hence they are swayed to choose that instead of having a free choice of actually looking at both sides and choosing. That's why in Islam, advertising is makruh. Because of this reason, so that people can have a choice. La ilaha. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Yes. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he said, he was asked by a person, what is the path to pleasure? What is the path to pleasure? He said, in opposing the nafs and desires. In opposing the nafs and desires. Okay, a MOMIN does that, right? Every day we are going through that, okay, I like this, but because Allah said so, I'm not doing it. Every day he's making that decision. It is hard for him. He's going through that test every day. So now, life becomes, strenuous. There's a lot of anxiety in life, concern. Am I making the right choices? For a kafir, he has no concern. He eats what he wants. He doesn't care. But for a mu'min, he does care. Allah, did you allow this or not? There's care, right? So that care turns into concern. Concern turns into worry. Worry turns into trouble. Trouble turns into headache, right? Now what happens is that this worry, this concern, this life that we are living of every day, going through this tough circumstances and hardships and difficulty and suffering. So the next question the person asked him is that, when does this suffering end? When does a mu'min find relief? So Imam said that a mu'min finds relief with the first step he will take into Jannat. When he enters Jannat. Before that, there is no relief. La ilaha illallah. This is it. So it's something for us to think about. This is the internal condition. Now let me go to the external condition so that you understand that also. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. La ilaha illallah. Just as an introduction so that I can conclude the last point of the internal condition, right? My friends, at first a person wants to be good. And if he becomes good, then that's not enough. Now he has to be better. Right? You see, for a person, and here's the thing, understand it very well, and you can look at it in your own life and experience this. For a person to go from bad to good is easy, but for going from good to better is very difficult. This is where most of the people fail in their tests. You see, a community, you're talking about community and trying to give advice to a community, it's easy to go from being bad to good. The difficulty is from going from good to better. That's the difficulty. And if we understand that, then we will understand that, wow, I need to pay more attention to becoming better now. It's not enough that I'm just good. Because you know what? Shaitan made that mistake. Shaitan was good, right? He prayed to Allah, right? He prayed for 6,000 years. That's a lot more than we did, right? A lot more than we could hope for. Yeah. Tell me, right? Our accumulated score is not adding up to his score, right? That's the way it is. He prayed a lot. You see, he went from bad to being good. He was good, but he did not want to get better. You see, he didn't want to get better. La ilaha illallah. So what happened is that when Allah said that make sajda to Adam, that's when he got stuck. You see, in order for him to get better, he had to do that. He says, I'm already good. And that's enough for me. That's what ended destroying him. Let me read a hadith for you. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said this hadith, and I had this for you. When he refused to do this, Imam Sadiq says, فَقَالَ Iblis. Iblis said, Ya Rabbi, a'fini min as-sujud li Adam. Excuse me from making sajda to Adam. You know, I mean, excuse me from making sajda. I can't do that. Really, I can't do that. So forgive me that I don't make sajda to Adam. He says, وَأَنَا أَعْبُدُكَ إِبَادَةً لَمْ يَعْبُدُكَهَا Malakun muqarrab wala nabiyun mursal. And if you just allow me not to make sajda to Adam, I will worship you in such a way that no angel nor a prophet has worshipped you. I'll worship you in that way. Yes. Just let go of this. Let's let go of this. My friends, that was it. You know, all of that is an illusion. First get this. Right? Something for us also, you know. For example, you know, I want to be Ashab Imam Hussain. I want to go here and there, and I want to give my life in Karbala, this and that, you know. This. Okay, first start with prayer. First start with khums, right? You don't give your khums and you want to go and give your life in Karbala. What are you talking about? That's exactly what Allah is telling Iblis. He's saying, you want to do all of that, but first, do this. Right? My friends, our idea is to get better. Not just be happy with being good. If you're happy with being good, you are on a path to destruction. La ilaha illallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You know, wish I could give more examples, you know, but really understand this, right? Our testing becomes harder in order that we get better, and that's what we have to strive for. And being better requires you to make tougher decisions. Really, it requires us that. And that's what we have to get used to, making those tougher decisions. Prophet had told Imam Ali that after me, if people rise up against you, if they do something to you, Ali, do not react. Do not do anything. So now what happened? Imam Ali had a very tough choice. He had a choice of either protecting this amanat of Rasulullah, this advice of Rasulullah, of not doing that because Rasulullah took word from him. Promise me you will not do this. Imam Ali said, I promise, I will not react. I will not get angry. Imam Ali had that. So now he had a choice between protecting this promise he made to Rasulullah and protecting his wife. Now understand what a tough choice he had. That's why he had to let Fatima go through what she did, because he was protecting the promise he made to Rasulullah. This is, my friend, understand this. Choices are not going to get easier. Testing is not going to get easier. And this is where we need to make those tougher decisions. La ilaha illallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. All right, my friends, external condition, right? I don't have enough time for this, but I'll just mention it in brief so that you understand it and it's not left behind. External condition for a test to become a test, two things I said. Internal, that there must be a real choice that we have. That's one. Second thing, the external test is that there should be a possibility, probability of us committing sin, of us disobeying Allah. If Allah takes away our ability to sin and actually commit the crime, then it won't be a test anymore. Now it comes into Jabr. Or Allah must give us the possibility of doing good. If He takes that away from us, if He forces us to do good, what's that then? We have no choice then. Allah is ruling us. You see, this is the external choice. There must be a possibility of sinning and there must be a possibility of doing good. Both of these must be in front of us and probable for us to do. That's why you see the rules of Islam are based to protect this external condition. All the rules of Islam that Allah has made are based to protect this choice that we have in our test. Protecting this choice. Yes. Ever wonder why ghibat is haram? Backbiting. Why is that haram? I mean, I am telling about someone who has done something wrong that I know of. It's not a lie. You know, I saw that guy drinking beer. I saw him drinking beer. I saw him miss the prayer. So what I'm saying is not a lie. So why Allah is saying, that you should not tell it about him? Why is that? Allah is saying the truth. Have you ever wondered the reason behind it? Because, we shouldn't do it. It's like eating the flesh of a dead brother. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that have to do anything? I mean, really understand when Allah says it, the wisdom, when you don't understand it, then you will not know. My friends, understand this. When a person, Allah has given him the choice to drink, given him the choice not to pray. He gave him that. That's a test that he has to give. If you talk about others, backbite others, then he will be forced not to sin. He will be forced to pray. And hence the choice for him praying or the choice for him doing sin goes away. Is eliminated. Understand this? Don't, really, I am going to, that's why we say it's between him and Allah. It's a test Allah has given and Allah doesn't want anyone to interfere in that test. Anyone to interfere in that test. Now obviously, that's the reason why those probabilities, those possibility of doing haram must be there. Those possibility of doing good must be there. Now, does that mean that in every neighborhood we should have a masjid and a bar next to each other? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you should have a masjid and a bar so that when they come to the masjid, there's a bar next door, so they can choose. No, that's not what it means. What it means is that when this person, really, when a person is having a test in the privacy of his own home, no one has the right to interfere in what he's going through because Allah is trying to test him there in order to make him grow. In order to make him grow. It's his test. Do not talk about him. Why? Because I am dealing with him. I'm dealing with him. He's going through my testing. How dare you interfere in my testing? I'm giving you the exam. How dare you interfere in the exam that he's giving? Let him give the test. You see, that's the reason Allah doesn't want anything in the society to pressure people from not having a choice. This is it, my friend. This is the external condition that Allah wants to safeguard, that everyone goes through this testing so that there can be a choice. Yes, when it comes to public affairs, that's where Allah's rules come in, that you're doing a sin in public, disobedience in public, that's making this disobedience become famous in public, and hence that must be stopped. That must be stopped. But if you're doing it in your own home, no one's going to come to your house and do it or stop you. Like, how Umar, jumped the wall, You know the story, And Umar jumped the wall of someone and said, aha, you're drinking, wine. What? You'll be whipped for this. He jumped the wall, came into the house, sneaked into the house, and said, right? That's what he did. And so what happened is that the person there, he said, what are you talking about, If I'm doing one wrong, you're doing three wrongs, man. Right? You're spying on me. You're entering my house without permission. Right? And, going through the wall, jumping the wall instead of the door, right? Three haram things you're doing. You're telling me about one. So, we don't do that. Allah doesn't want to do that. Why? Because if this person is doing wrong, it's a test that he's giving. It's between him and Allah. Allah is dealing with him. We have no right to pressure people in forcing them to do things. You can educate them, you can advise them, you can do all these things, but if they're doing something in their own room, then Allah says that is a testing ground for them. This is it. La ilaha illallah. My friends, then people will say, well, if you don't do that, then everyone will start sinning and everyone will start disobeying Allah. Yes, exactly. This is exactly the reason that 124,000 prophets apparently failed. That's exactly the reason. 124,000 people came and still you see more people disobeying Allah. Because of this, Allah's deen doesn't want to interfere with the testing of human beings. Give them the freedom and the choice to make their decisions in life. Your job is just to educate them. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ. Our job is just to tell you. But that choice, the decisions you have to make in your own room, in your hands. We will not come there and make those decisions for you. My friends, these are the reasons. These two things, if we understand them, then we understand what testing is. La ilaha illallah. I want to explain more, but inshallah, we will end it here some other time, and that will do it. Just this testing, if a person understands, and these things that Allah is giving us, if we understand that, it will help us to go through life much better and know that what I'm doing right now is something that Allah is interacting with me. And this is where our relationship with Allah actually and really starts to grow. When we recognize, not that we pray. Prayer is just one thing. My friends, you and Allah are interacting with each other every moment of your life. Allah's attention and focus is on you. He's on you. He says, don't think I'm ignoring you or you're somewhere hiding. No, I'm constantly looking at you. This is the test. La ilaha illallah. When we look at Imam Hussein, we see that this freedom of choice that he gave to the people, really, this freedom of choice that he gave to the people, he maintained the fact that they are tested by Allah. I am just doing this in front of you. It was a big test. He really brought out and exposed the people in the ground. You know what Imam Hussein truly exposed was the people. He didn't expose a person. He didn't expose Shimr. He didn't expose Umar ibn Saad. He didn't expose Khuli. He didn't expose Hurmala. He exposed the concept of people. Imam Hussein is the only Imam who was killed by the people. Not by a person, but by the people. Every Imam was killed by one person. Imam Hussein wanted to destroy the idol of people. People, that we give so much importance to. All the people are saying this. People are the one who killed Imam Hussein. Their word has no value. If you understand Karbala, people have no value. Your word, your opinion have no value. Really. That's what Imam Hussein exposed. He brought the people out. He made the circumstance such that when the people will come out, they will reveal themselves, expose themselves. That's what he wanted. It wasn't one person there. It was that majority, that people who were there. Yes, they felt sad for what happened to him. Many people in Yazid's army felt sad for what happened to Imam Hussein. They were crying also. They were crying. We are not the only ones who are crying. They're also crying. You see, when Imam Hussein was being slaughtered, his head was being slaughtered, there were people in Yazid's army who made circles. They made a circle, took off their amama, and started beating their heads, raised their hand towards Allah and says, Allah help him, Allah please help him. And they were crying. They were crying. They see their Imam being slaughtered and they're crying. La ilaha illallah. So really we need to understand the difference of what's the difference between true mourning and aza and crying. Many people cried. Cried. But who are they crying for? What are they crying for? You ask them, what are they crying for? I don't understand. Your actions betray your grief. Your life betrays your grief and aza. And you're saying aza that. It betrays that. The daughter of Imam Hussein, Sakina, when she ran out of the burning tent and she was like running helter-skelter looking for, she didn't know what to do. She's only 4 years old. She was running here and there, doesn't know what to do. And a person came to her, a man came to her and saw that she was wearing earrings. She was wearing earrings. He came to her and asked for the earrings. And she's only 4 years old. So what happened is that, your motor skills are not good. She's like trying to take them off, but she's delaying, because her motor skills, his hands are not letting her take the earrings off. He was impatient, so he said, let me grab them. He started pulling the earrings and pulled them off in a way, jerked them off in a way that her ears split open. And Sakina started screaming. But this person who was pulling them off, he had tears in his eyes. He was crying. He was crying as he was doing this. Can you imagine this? Someone came to him and said, what are you crying for? He says, what are you doing? He says, I'm taking these earrings. But what are you crying for? He says, because these are the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah. These are the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah. He said, then why are you doing it to them? Why are you doing this? He said, well, if I don't do it, someone else will take it. They're crying also, my friends. Understand this. Really, our relationship with Imam Hussein. What is our relationship with Imam Hussein? Imam Hussein, you're crying for me? Really, you're crying for me? If you see my cause, my deen in trouble, what are you doing for it? If you see, you know why I stood up? I stood up to save the ummah of Rasulullah. If you see the ummah of Rasulullah in shambles, what are you doing about it? You gonna cry for me? My friends, understand this. This is it. The daughter of Imam Hussein, we have come to this. You know, Ashura is finished, but the suffering is not finished. You know, you went back home last night after Sham-e Ghariba and you got into your comfortable beds and you slept there. The women and children didn't have a bed to sleep on. And what's difficult is that they're not Bedouins, they're not desert people, they're not desert dwellers. They live in cities, they have a home, they have a bed, they have a bedroom that they sleep in. They have been brought out to the desert and made homeless there. They're brought out, they're not used to that. Now you see, after Sham-e Ghariba, the dirt is going to become their bed. The suffering begins here, my friends. The suffering here begins here. You know, Sakina, her troubles were not the thirst of Ashura. Her troubles began after Ashura. You thought that she drank after this? They were not giving water to them. You know how hard it was that sometimes Sakina, this thirst was just there. She would get a little bit of water here and there and that's it. And they were making her go like that and travel like that. They came to a stop. When they came to a stop, they put the Ahlul Bayt in one place. And at that moment, Sakina said that, Aunt Zainab, I'm thirsty. Those people were in their tents drinking water. She saw that and she felt the thirst and she said, Aunt Zainab, I'm thirsty. Can I go there and ask them for water? Zainab said, yes, my daughter, it's all right to ask for water. Hussein asked for water for Ali Asghar. Your father asked water for Ali Asghar, it's all right, go and ask for water. Sakina started walking towards the tents. And at that moment, it is said that Shimr saw her walking there. And he came to greet her in the middle and said, what do you want? He said, I'm thirsty. He said, you're thirsty? All right. You want water? She said, yes. You want water? Yes. So now Sakina went with him. He said, come with me. The water bearer, the one who was giving the water to the people, he told the water bearer, give me the water back. Let me serve the people. Shimr took the water and said that, listen, you see these soldiers of mine? They deserve the water more than you do. So I'm going to give it to them first. All right? And then I will give it to you. Sakina, 4-year-old, listen to this. Sakina followed Shimr. He was giving water to the people, those soldiers who were there. And then Sakina, 4 years old, she looks up and, with hope that now the soldiers have drank their water, maybe she will get some water. So Shimr said that, listen, you want water, right? But wait, you know, my horses are thirsty. You see those horses? They're better than you. They are more valuable than you are, you know? They're more helpful for me than you, so I need to feed them first. So he went there and gave the water to the horses. He gave the water to the horses and let Sakina watch. And it was said that as Sakina is walking behind him, she sees the shade of the tent and moves inside the shade of the tent. Shimr then looked back at her and said, no, if you want water, you have to walk in the sun. You can't walk in the shade. He's playing games with Sakina. When the horses drank the water, then after that he says, now there's a little water left. You want it? Sakina said, yes. He says, raise your hands and I'll put it there. Sakina raised her small hands in the air, and then he took the water bag and dropped the water on the ground in front of her. Dropped it in front of her and said, look, there's your water. Go and drink it. Sakina had her hands raised. She did not bring down those hands with the same posture that she was in. She said, Ya Rasulallah, Ya Jaddi, Ya Rasulallah, oh my grandfather, Rasulallah, do you see this? I'm a yatim who's asking for water, and they're doing this with me. Be a witness. Sakina went through a lot. Her thirst was there. But on top of that thirst, every time Sakina would cry, there would be someone who would come in order to make her shut up. They would slap her in the face. Every time she thinks of her father, she cries. Now, I want you to know, what has she seen? See, she sees a face. She sees the head of Imam Hussein on the spear. She's a child. She looks at her father like that and she cries. I remember I was doing a ghusl and mayyat for a person who died. He had 2 daughters. He had died. And I was giving the ghusl. The family was there. They wanted to see the father. And then what happened? He says, not yet, not yet. Do not let them see their father in this condition. After we do the kafan, after we do everything, then we will do that. We will open the face up and then they can see. Why? Because we don't want them to remember their father in this way. Everyone was holding back the girls. The girls were crying. And you know what? After we put the shroud on the kafan on the body, then we open the face, and then they let the girls come in and say, bid farewell to your father. The minute they saw their father, they went hysterical. They were crying so much. And these were 12, 13-year-old, they're crying so much. And they just saw the face of the father, and the face wasn't hurt. He had just died. Sakina is 4 years old. She has seen the face of her father disfigured. The ears are cut off. The nose is cut off. She sees the disfigured face, and every time she sees, she cries. And then every time she cries, they slap her into submission and make her shut up. You know, this is what Sakina is going through. And Zainul Abidin, her brother, he was walking. As he's walking, you know that Imam Sajjad is ill and sick. So now what happens? They made him bear this heavy wooden piece on his neck, so that as he's walking with it, he doesn't have the strength to stand up. So he would take a few steps, he would fall down. And then as he falls down, they would come and start to whip him until he gets up. They would start to whip him until he gets up. And they would whip him again until he gets up. And then at a point came that whenever Sakina used to see them whip her brother, Imam Sajjad, then she would break down and cry. She would break down and cry. Unfortunately, Shimmer saw this and said, what's the relationship between this man and this girl? And they said, this seems to be his sister. So now Shimmer, after that, when he got that information, it wasn't good. You know why? Because the next time Imam Sajjad fell down and they wanted to whip him, he says, give me that whip. I know how to make him stand up. I know how to make him stand up. So he took that whip, went to Sakina, and then started to hit her. And looked back at Imam Sajjad and said, if you don't get up, then she will be beaten. Imam Sajjad is forcing himself to stand up. How the relationship between Imam Sajjad and Sakina. Every time he's beaten, she cries. Every time he falls, she's being hit. She's being struck. And this relationship went on. And they know that Imam Sajjad, they put thorns in his way. And every time he steps on those thorns go into his soul. It's Sakina who's being pierced. When Sakina sees him wince in pain, she looks at him and she's the one who cannot take it. The love between these two, Imam Sajjad and Sakina, was such. How much they loved each other. But not once can Imam Sajjad console her, comfort her. Not once can Sakina come and just grab Imam Sajjad, and so that she can find a shoulder to cry on. One night when they made a stop, just listen to this, and inshallah you give your condolences. I will end my speech here. One time they came to a stop. And in that stop at night, the soldiers went into their tents. The Ahlul Bayt were wrapped in ropes. They were cuffed in ropes. Imam Sajjad, he was wrapped to a pole so that he cannot move. A spear that was put in the ground, he was wrapped to it. His hands are tied behind him. He was sitting there. And then the ladies were on the other side. They were sitting there. Every night this would happen. They would come there and they would make this position. They would be in the air, on the sands, in the desert. They would be sitting there. The soldiers would go inside, do their merrymaking, and then go to sleep. Sakina, every night, she would wait. She would wait for the soldiers to go to sleep. She would wait for the ladies to go to sleep. And after everyone has gone sleep, she would feign, she would imitate that she's sleeping. She would feign there. And then when everyone is asleep, she would open her eyes to see, is everyone asleep? No one is awake. Then she would crawl her way on her knees and elbows. She would crawl on her knees and elbows, and she will go to Imam Sajjad, and then she would take his feet and she would put it on her small lap, and she would cry on those feet until she washes the blood. And then one by one she would take out the thorns from inside. She would take those thorns from inside his leg. Imam Sajjad's hands are tied behind his back. Imam Sajjad would just cry for her. And he would say, Sakina, how I wish I can just hug you right now. How can I just comfort you right now? Sakina, one time when she was crying, started to make noise. And then one of the soldiers heard that. And the soldier came to see what's going on. And he saw that Sakina is helping Imam Sajjad. His legs are in the lap of Imam Sajjad. And she's crying. So he said, oh, so you're here to help him. Let me do something to you that you will remember. He got a whip. And then he came to Sakina. And he said, let me strike you. And he started striking Sakina. Imam Sajjad said, don't strike her, strike me instead. لا إله إلا الله لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون يا محمود بحق محمد يا علاء بحق علي يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة يا محسن بحق حسن يا قديم الإحسان بحق حسين. Oh Allah, give us the tawfiq and the blessing to be on the right path. Give us the wisdom to understand your guidance. Oh Allah, increase the love of Ahlul Bayt in our hearts and in the hearts of our children. Oh Allah, make our feet firm on the path of Ahlul Bayt. Oh Allah, give us strength in our arms, in our hands, that we can raise the flag of Ahlul Bayt. Oh Allah, we ask you that all those mu'mineen who are here, that you give them and increase their tawfiqat. Oh Allah, we ask you that the ibadat and the worship that we do for you, and the small ibadat that we have done for you, that you accept this from us. Oh Allah, we ask you that you hasten the reappearance of our Imam. Oh Allah, we ask you that you make us his helpers so that we can revenge the blood of Hussein and his family. Oh Allah, we ask you to keep the shade of our ulama and our leader on our head, and to give strength to the ummah of your Prophet. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Matem Hussein. 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 Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.
Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin, oh my Imam Zainul Abidin, oh Sajjad, oh my Imam Zainul Abidin, oh my Imam Zainul Abidin, oh Sajjad. You taught us the art of supplication, you showed us the power of prostration to make Islam our life's foundation, and how to ask Allah for salvation. Such is your status, O holy soul. You made Allah's love your only goal. Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin,
Oh my Imam Zainul Abidin.
Oh Sajjad, you are the great grandson of Muhammad. Inside your veins flows the purest of blood. You came down from heaven like a rosebud and left your son forever in this world. Your name will live on forever now. Till death you'll be in our hearts we vow. Oh my Imam,